Time for some jazz! In the previous lesson I showed you how to play a 2-5-1 progression in the key of C with shell voicings. A shell voicing consists of 3 different notes. You have the root, the third and the seventh. Today we're gonna add 1 or 2 more notes to our shell voicing to make them sound bigger and fuller. The chords for a 2-5-1 progression in the key of C are D minor 7, G7 and C major 7. If I play that progression with the shell voicings, it sounds like this. You can of course play those shell voicings in different positions over the entire neck. Another one would be here at the 10th fret. Let's go back to the first one here. Now we're gonna add 1 or 2 notes to each shell voicing for a bigger and fuller sound. We can add these notes in a lot of different ways, of course. For this lesson I will show you a few ones that I think are easy to remember and they sound nice. Some of them are quite easy to play and some of them are more difficult. Some of them may be referred as drop 2 and drop 3 voicings. I will talk more about those kind of chords in later lessons. So first, how do we know which notes we can add to our shell voicings? Well, since we are playing in the key of C, we can use notes of the C major scale. So, it's obviously good if you know how to play the C major scale in this position. For the D minor 7 chord, you can add every note of the C major scale to your shell voicing, but I recommend that you avoid the B note in the beginning. Since the B note is the major third of G, which is a very characteristic note of G7. Here's a D minor 9 chord. I've added a note on the 5th fret of the B string, an E note. E is the 9th of D. How do I know that? Well, you can play the D major scale and count to 9. Yes, the D major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Sorry for my beautiful voice there, but as you can see, the E note is the 9th. So if we add the 9th to our D minor 7 chord, we will have a D minor 9 chord. Here's another D minor 7 chord. I've added a note on the 3rd fret of the B string, a D note. Since D is the root of the chord, this is just a regular D minor 7 chord. Here's another one. I've added a note on the 6th fret of the B string, a F note. F is the minor third, so this is just a different variation of a D minor 7 chord. Now let's add an additional note to our D minor 7 chord, but on the E string. Here's a D minor 9 chord again, but with an added note on the 5th fret of the E string. This one can be a little tricky to play since I'm barring with my ring finger here on the 5th fret of the G, B and E string. Here's a D minor 11 chord. This one is even harder to play, but it's a beautiful voicing. I'm barring with my index finger across all strings. I have my pinky on the 5th fret of the B string and I pluck or strum the chord from the A string. Now let's look at a few different variations for the G7 chord. Here's a simple G7 chord with an added note on the B string. Here's a G13 chord. Another variation for the simple G7 chord. Let's add an additional note to our G7 chord, but on the E string. Here's a G7 chord again with an added note on the 3rd fret of the E string. Instead of playing the 3rd fret of the B string, let's change it to the 5th fret and we will have a G13 chord again. Here's a G13 chord with the 9th on the E string. The 9th of G is an A note. Let's play the G major scale and count to 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, that's an A, and that's the 9 of G. So here's that G13 chord one more time. Now let's look at a few different variations for the C major 7 chord. Here's a C major 9. Here's a regular C major 7 chord with an added C note on the 1st fret of the B string. Here's a C major 9 chord again, but with an additional note on the 3rd fret of the E string. This one is obviously tricky to play since you need to use your thumb on the 3rd fret of the A string. It's absolutely fine to change the major 7th of C to a major 6 instead. So instead of this voicing here, we can play a C6-9 chord, which sounds like this. I'm barring with my index finger on the 2nd fret of the D and G string. Now it's time to put these different voicings together and create some music with them. I recommend that you experiment with these different voicings that I just showed you and be creative. Think about how the top note of each chord moves through the chord progression. That's really important. You can, for example, use the same note for each chord on the top string, like this. Or like this. Or you can try to be more melodic with your voicings, where the top note always changes for each note. Here's a few more examples at the 10th and 8th fret. I will now add different notes on the B and E string to each shell voicing. That's it. Please leave a comment, and if you like this lesson, please subscribe to my channel. I want to say thank you to all my supporters on Patreon, and a special shout out to my special supporters. Here they are. All right. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Cheers.